Take it away.
Yeah, welcome everybody to the first showing of this game on a GDQ. First time for many people just even seeing the game, let alone the run. And like I said, this game's been out for less than a week. Came out last Thursday officially. Had a little early access before then, but yeah, this is what the community has found in a week's time. It is quite surprising. If you're not a fan of super broken games, you're going to want to pay more attention to the restricted category that's popping up. Plenty of runners are working on that currently, but this is any %, so you're going to see some crazy stuff. I'm going to try my best to explain it as well. Like I said, it's only been a week, so even though we found this, not all of it we really understand, but I'm going to try to help you guys through it. You're going to see a lot of the same trick over and over, but we're just going to go into it. A question a lot of people have is, do we mess with the sliders? For right now, we're going with the rule set of we're just using the default modes. So we're just default easy, sliders left alone. Maybe that'll change in the future. But yeah, time's going to start when we skip this cutscene here, and we're going to immediately break the game. So we're off. We're Doom Guy. And one of the coolest things we found, one of the coolest things I think in any run recently, is there's a very specific frame when we do this mantle animation that if we open up the auto map here, we can give the game the coordinates of the auto map instead of the coordinates of the Doom Slayer himself. And if we're on the right frame when we do this, you can see we now teleport over here instead of over there. So you're going to be seeing this quite a lot. We can literally teleport just about anywhere you want. The only restriction is the height of the warp itself is locked, meaning we can't use this to go up in a map. We can only use it to go horizontally across. So anywhere that's the same height or lower is something that we can warp to. We're actually just trying to warp over to this little spot right here. So you're going to see this a whole bunch in the first level, and then we kind of get some gameplay here and there. But like I said, this is frame perfect, so we're kind of doing this like weird pause buffer method by playing at a lower frame rate and using the mouse wheel to kind of help us advance frames. So actually bypass it there, we need to go back. We can scroll in or out to be more precise where we're positioning this. So there we go, jumped over. This was actually one of the more recent things we found. Initially, we found that you can, as long as you have above 60 frames per second or higher, you can hold open the weapon wheel and just clip through just about anything you want, which clipping through walls is usually probably the most broken thing you can find in a run. And we routed around that, and we were just walking through just about everything. And then mantle warping came out, and now that's replaced all tech. You might be wondering, like, how is this stuff found? It's a question a lot of people have for speedrunners. This was just found casually. People just running around, opening their map when they're climbing, and something funky happens. And it's like, all right, well, something funky's happening. Let's investigate. So we just watched a whole bunch of clips, try to reproduce it. And yeah, we have like 2,000 messages for this specific trick in the Discord currently. It's like 80% of the discussion for this game since it's come out has been around mantle warping. So now we've got our gauntlets, which is a melee weapon. We're just trying to get to the end of the map here. We may have missed it as well. Because it's frame perfect, we've had a lot of different potential setups for getting it first try, including dropping down to 2 FPS and counting 12 frames out. You can just play at a higher frame rate and just hope you get it and just be a Giga Chad. But this pause buffer method's pretty safe overall.
They're making a final push.
Now to end this level, we need to use this turret on this big guy. But yeah, also a lot of this stuff may end up getting patched out, so if you watch a run a couple months down the line, it may be different, but we can always down patch. Like I said, if you're like, oh, this is crazy, I want to see more intended gameplay, more movement stuff, there are plenty of restricted runners putting together a route. It's like slightly over 2 hours at this point. Hopefully this should come in closer to around the hour 20 mark, but we'll see. Also, just be prepared at any point if this game crashes. There's still a lot of problems with that happening. So we may see one or two. Hopefully not. There's some wild tech we're gonna see. Alright, that's the first level.
All remaining enemy
So we could like skip the melee weapons, the gauntlets, but they're kind of useful because they help us get ammo at the end of this level and the next one. That may also potentially change. So speaking of weapons, we're going to go upgrade our shield. Luckily, this is right at the start of the level. This is a pretty handy thing to get. Kind of looks like a Beyblade. And just to kind of skip this animation, we're going to reload checkpoint. And you can probably guess that we're just going to teleport to the end of the level. So that grab was kind of late. Let's give this a handful of tries here. So I can kind of tell based on the animation of the mantle how close we are. Now, right at the end of the level. So we just need to kill off certain enemies here. We're pretty much just going to shield bash them, throw our shield into them when it's on cooldown, and then just blast it with the shotgun. So our general strategy for the time being. So we don't need to kill a lot of the fodder, the guys with shields. We just need to kill very specific enemies here. Draw out the leader. Should be an invisible spawn. Hello. And one more Mancubus. I have no idea what I just hit there. Oh, he never died. Cool. So even though we can like teleport anywhere we want, we can clip through anything we want, because a lot of the levels are tied, like their triggers to fights, like this one, or like destroying the giant enemy before on the last map. We unfortunately do have to go through them. Not really a way to skip them. This guy's just trying to run away. He doesn't know there's nowhere to run. Alright, it's map 2 done. Map 3 kind of changes the gameplay. It's going to give us a mech, so we can't do an auto map teleport. But doesn't mean it's not any less broken. So here's the mech. Looks kind of cool. And when we get the keys to this thing, we immediately take it for a test drive outside the map. So we just boost into this, get up on top of an invisible wall, and now we just need to follow this very small wall all the way to the end of the level. There's certain parts where it gets extremely thin, like tightrope thin. So if we get past that quickly, if not, we have to just reload checkpoint. Try it again. Let's see, this is the scary part right here. Ooh, fell in bounds, okay. Unfortunately, if we fall in bounds there's no enemies to kill off to progress. If we fall to the left, we just fall out of the map, unfortunately. This little spot right here is by far the hardest. Whoop. Oh, very close. Okay. Even though I'm having to reload, this is still like faster than dealing with the enemies normally because it's just a lot of fighting. And unfortunately, combat in the mech, as we'll see later on, is quite slow. Not really anything you can do to speed it up. This is a lot of punching. Ooh, a little to the left. Okay. Whee. But yeah, also notice my FPS in the top right-hand corner. I unfortunately don't have a great PC, so I'm a little bit on the low side. There's not many strats that are super pay to win in terms of like having a good PC. The wheel clipping that we'll see a little bit, we'll have one in the next level, is impacted by having a higher frame rate. Like you can clip quickly at a higher frame rate, so that one does get an advantage. The mantle warping does not, because I personally use a 30 FPS toggle, so I can do it better. But yeah, it's really about the only thing that so far is FPS reliant. Okay. Give it a couple more tries and we might just run through the level. This is fortunately not something that we can like checkpoint. So hopefully in time we'll find maybe a little bit better of a way to do this. It's always the fun thing about speedruns, even though this is what it looks like after a week. You know, in a month's time, it may look completely different. All right, let's give it one more good try, shall we? Yeah, this is definitely a game that I wake up and I see like hundreds of new messages in the Discord. All right, we need to just kill some enemies. So I think I can spawn them in this way, maybe. All right, let's do a little bit of mech fighting, shall we? I've been told that Hugo Martin worked on Pacific Rim, so it's no surprise the big mech fightings in this game. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have any ways to break these walls without just killing off the enemies. And you can also see the barrel of the gun gets brighter when I do dodges against these green attacks. You'll see a lot of green attacks when I fight bosses and just certain enemies. These are things you're supposed to parry, and if you parry them properly by dodging, I guess just dodging, not parrying, it superheats the gun, makes it do more damage. And if you're just doing fist fighting, then it will just kind of fill up your finisher bar. You're still up, okay. So the out of bounds would have pretty much dropped us into this part.
Relay overloading.
So it's a nifty little skill. Now here we actually don't have to fight. We can just run past these nerds. Oop.
There's a strip mine
Sorry.
nearby. I'll mark
Run
it
past
for
these
you.
really cool guys. Don't hit me, don't hit me. Okay.
The crane ship has disappeared from radar.
No response from the makers.
Just a couple more enemies, and then we have a
Tracking
little
this layer for evac now.
boss showdown. So depending on how full that yellow bar is, you get different types of finishers. So I'm kind of saving up for the one that I want against these guys. I'm actually going to use the first finisher against the boss coming up, just to stun them more. I don't think they have them. Okay. Alright. So he's got a shield. It's kind of annoying if he puts it up. You can't hit him. But you can also just stun him if you have the right charge in place. That's enough mech gameplay for now. Let's go back to breaking the game, shall we? So we're actually not going to start this off with the mantle warp. We're just going to fly over here with our shield and then do that wheel clip I was talking about. So we just open up the weapon wheel and hold forward. And it's as easy as that. So, and this is the trick that the higher your FPS, the quicker you'll clip through. It's still pretty quick. So we're just going to hit a checkpoint down here. To get that. Right now we don't do too much upgrading, and it may change in the future. It's kind of the big thing we're routing in now that all of the skips have been found. Trying to figure out what's best for the few fights that we actually have to do. I think it's like 13 forced fights at the moment, but this is our gun of choice at the moment, the Impaler. It's pretty cool. So we're going to grab this and we're going to grab upgrades for it along the way. And we're going to, now that we have this, go back to mantle warping. So we're just going to use this to fly over the entire map. Woo! Unfortunately, the auto map also just kind of gets kind of janky at lower frame rates, so dropping it down to 30 makes it a little bit unresponsive at times. You may notice like me trying to move it around and it's just not moving. So you can see that we're just floating in the sky. It's because our height's once again locked in place.
Approaching the bridge to the Dragon's aviary.
And we have our most favorite of fights. So because he's got armor on, we want to kind of shoot at his back legs, which is unprotected. And the best way to do that is just kind of stun him. He wants to do parryable attacks. So we're kind of looking out for those green attacks. He's got some orbs. He's got a little melee one that he does not want to do right now. You can also see that purple bar there. That's kind of like a stagger bar. You know, whatever games want to call it. It's a little different in each one, but when that gets full, he will go into a stagger state. We're supposed to do a cool animation, but we just use that as time to dump more shots into his backside. Give him some nice back shots. Get a little careful. Unfortunately, his poison attack that he puts on the floor, it does a lot of damage even on the easiest difficulties. And he almost kills me every time. Got one more parry. And now we go from mech gameplay and regular Doom guy gameplay to the dragon level. Because who doesn't love a nice flying dragon? It feels very much like the flying levels in Spyro. And you may not believe me, maybe you would at this point watching the run, but we also have some dragon tech. But we're just going to go through the dragon tutorial real quick. Some really easy tech is when you do dodges here and you get like supercharged shots. If you keep holding down the shoot button, just let the game auto fire for you, it actually slows down your rate of fire. But if you tap fire instead, you can shoot at a much faster rate. Just take out multiple things in one go. Oh, one of these survived. There you are. Yeah, this game is pretty much like Spyro if Spyro also had giant cannons attached to it. approaching the end of the dragon tutorial. We just gotta land here. Pretty cool animation. And we gotta open our door. Oh, hey, look, there's a dragon again. So now we're going into the Holy City. And there's a lot of stuff you're supposed to do, destroying ships. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. However, all of that's to get the red barrier here to go down. But we don't need to do that, surprisingly. We can't just clip through it, but what we can do is just slip through a hole in collision right here. Fly down a little bit. Get under the map as one does. And then fly up into the middle. From here, we can just go straight into the final arena. So these little things you see along the way are shrines. That's where you do your upgrades. We'll be visiting them later. We just don't have enough supplies to upgrade yet. So it's still just impaler shots. Charging with the shield. Trying to keep enemies stunned as long as possible. So the annoying guy that shoots acid and everything from previous levels, he comes back as kind of a mini boss. He's just kind of chilling here. He likes to get stuck in this arena. He just kind of stands still. Oh, okay. I want to kill him. Thank you. Just sent that guy flying. And that should be the fight.
I'm headed
Cool.
to the chamber now.
All right. So this is kind of casually where the game opens up more. You get kind of a big map now that you've gone past all the tutorials. But unfortunately for the game, we're not going to do any of that. We can still use the same tech, so we're going to do another mantle warp. It's kind of a late grab, so we'll see. Give this a couple of tries here. Pretty quick. So yeah, this is the big arena. Normally you have to go destroy a whole bunch of stuff and then this grate opens up. However, because we have the power of the weapon wheel, we can just hold forward. I'm going to be doing this on the next map as well. So just to say, if you're liking what you're seeing or if you want to mess around with this game yourself, the Discord is very active for this. Plenty of different categories. We've got people working on any percent. We have restricted, which is more normalized gameplay, just kind of fast, some movement stuff. Plenty of people are working on like 100%, Ultra Nightmare.
Shield is down, and the gate is taking heavy damage.
So if any of that sounds appealing, you know, hop in. It's a good time. Strats are changing on the daily. It's a very collaborative effort. A lot of people pitching in to get the stuff working. So this is just the game after a week. It could be very different in a month. It could be different in 6 months. So we're just kind of doing some mantle warps back to where we need to go. Give this a few more tries. May have passed the frame. Give it like 2 more. So here we're actually trying to warp underneath this final platform, which is going to hit us a void out plane, which puts us back where we need to go.
Player, there's a turret in the...
Okay, that was an early grab, so we're going to have to do a couple just throwaway attempts here. So yeah, we're actually underneath where we need to go, but we're going to void out and spawn at the ends. Oop. There we go.
The last lifeboat has been evacuated.
All right, into the forest. So Forest into Forge has one of the craziest skips that I'm actually not even going to show off today because it's just like that crazy. And I'm not well practiced enough at it. So, you know, once again, the game just came out.
Meeting him at the forge.
So we're going to do kind of the old way, which is weird to say, but I'm going to grab this branch. This branch does not like to be grabbed. That was kind of late. We'll see. Give us just a handful of attempts. But yeah, what makes it so crazy is we'll see in later levels, and actually the last 2 maps were this way. Some of these maps kind of exist in the same map, more or less. So this is the Abyssal Forest. The next map is the Ancestral Forge. You can actually get to the very end of the forge from here. So Siege 1 and 2, the 2 maps we just mantle warp through, also exist on the same map. In theory, you could get to the end of Siege 2 from Siege 1, but they're just so far apart, we don't currently have a way to mantle warp. Because even though we can like go across the map with the auto map, there are still restrictions. Like you're still kind of held to certain properties. So if we could find a way to clip the auto map out of itself and just traverse like thousands of units, the game could really open up. Okay. So unfortunately, this is frame perfect, so it is very easy to miss the frame, even with buffering. All right, let's do like 2 more and then go for it again. Okay. That was early, so I'm actually going to throw a couple away. So this is the end of the forest map. And we just take this elevator down. You know, sometimes you just need a little break on an elevator. And we're going to pick up the grenade launcher, not because we're actually going to use it. Don't really have a need for it with the impaler, but we have to kind of get past this quickly. We could just wheel clip through this door.
We can enhance your weapon.
Not really worth it.
The forge.
Okay. So now we're on the forge map, essentially. Let's throw a couple of these away. We're just going to clip into the forge. And even when I get this one, it kind of like jump scares me because it, you know, changes the auto map too when I'm in the middle of stuff. But yeah, welcome to the forge. Not going to see much of it. We're just going to run through here. Unfortunately, a lot of like areas that we see in this manner where it's like a lot of rock surfaces, doesn't actually have a ledge we can mantle off of. We can do it off of a shrine, but this one's so close to where we need to go, we're just going to run over here. And then do a really big weapon we'll clip through this door. And this is a chunky boy, so we're going to be here for a little bit. Take a little bit of a break, you know. And you might hear like a little sound effect playing, like a little boost. Because I have auto sprint turned on. You normally can't hit sprint when you have the weapon wheel up, but because the game's auto sprinting, every now and then it's trying to start a sprint and kind of helps speed up the process of clipping. But you can also see on the weapon wheel we're missing some weapons. That's part of what we're routing currently. A lot of stuff is off the beaten paths. So if we want to grab something like the super shotgun, or, you know, one of the plasma weapons, for example, we'd have to route that in and see if it's even worth picking up over just the impaler, which is kind of just a beastly weapon in its own right. So we've been mainly just working on the wheel clipping and mantle warping stuff, and now that that's kind of settled down, focusing on the best way to handle these combat encounters, which we're now mantle warping into another one here. We're gonna get our shield rune, even though we're not gonna see the animation for it. Start the fight and then take out some of the bigger enemies here. So very much just still shield bashing, trying to impaler shots. We needed the Sarvachnatron. So these are morale fights. You can see that purple bar up there. They go down based on the enemies that you kill. The bigger the enemy, the more goes down. So that's why I'm not bothering with a lot of these just fodder enemies. The ones with shields. Just going after the big boys. Now we run over here. That imp really just wanted the Mickey Mist to live. Got a Pinky and a Pinky Rider, and then there's a Revenant that we're actually not going to kill immediately. Because there's also challenges in this game per level that give you certain like rewards. A lot of them are either just gold for upgrading or weapon skins. This one gives us another ruby, which we're going to use to upgrade the Impaler with. We need to parry 3 Revenant shots in this map, so we're just going to keep him alive. He's being kind of slow. So we're just looking for those green attacks. It's 2. He's unfortunately not doing the one that does 2 parry attacks in one. He really does not want to do it? Okay. Our other Revenant did. All right. So now we have the challenge done. We can just beat up the Cyber Mancubus. The best part of the Impaler is just you get to see the enemies with tons of nails in them, as we'll see later on some of the boss fights. Okay, to the Forsaken Plains. This is where we get the only title card in the game. Welcome to Hell. I don't know why this is the only map to get one, but they really want you to know this is Hell. Not going to see too much of Hell in this first map. It's another big one where you're supposed to fight a bunch of enemies. We're just going to instead mantle warp to a very precise spot behind the mech here. There's also different types of mantling animations. This is like off of a short prop, so it's a little bit awkward to do, but we got in there. Gonna get a little bit of gold. And then jump into the mech. So this one we don't have a skip for. We actually do have to do some fighting here. But once again, referring to the challenges, there's 2 challenges on this map related to mech fighting, which both give gold. So it's kind of nice. We can just knock them out of the park. And get a couple upgrades after it. So one of the challenges is to hit 2 enemies at once with the first little finisher here. So we just stomp the floor. You can see the challenge gets marked off. The other one's to dodge perfectly 5 times. You kind of get in the next fighting segment anyways. There's also different types of enemies during this. You can see this one has like the one eye version. We'll see one of those in this next arena, but I'm going to try to keep alive as long as possible because he does like the most frequent attacks, which means I can parry them or I can dodge them more, and it's going to supercharge the shotgun. Which you get like 3 shots of supercharge for this. That is really the only way to kill these enemies off here. So the more I can dodge, the better. Once again, you can see the Gun gets red hot. Yeah, there's the guy. I'm just going to try to keep him alive because he just loves to attack. That should be the last one. Cool. So now we're finally going to upgrade our Impaler. Just going to grab the first two upgrades, which when we hit stuff with our shield, we get Impaler ammo back. And when we get Impaler ammo, we do more damage off of it. We're going to pick up our secondary shield rune. This one's kind of the more useful of the two that are on the way. And then we're going to do 2 mantle warps chained together to skip all of the fighting here. So we're gonna go into the second arena, which is going to void us out, put us back into that arena. Hello. And then it also advances the next part of the map. So like this up here wasn't spawned in before. And we also need to hit a void out plane relatively over here. Isn't super precise, but it's also not free. There's a chance I just fall infinitely. All right, hit it. Cool. A little sneak peek at the big bad of this game. We'll be seeing plenty of him later on. And oh boy, is he a doozy. Another fun combat encounter. So now that I'm doing these shield throws, it's giving me ammo for the gun. You can see it kind of glowing from time to time. That means it's like an empowered shot. Kind of like how it was for the mech and dodging. So we just do more damage when we do that. Rip out his heart, which is this upgrade for our shield. And we don't even need to wait for the portal to spawn in. We can just run to where it's gonna be. Whoop.
We need you at the command station.
Level end. Okay. Into the Sentinel command station. Which is also really short. Any level that doesn't end on like the end trigger is not like on a fight or like an interactable, just allows us to pretty much jump straight to the end. That might be a little late. Okay, well, interesting. I got it first try, frame perfect, but I wasn't expecting it, so I clipped into a weird spot. Let's just weapon wheel out here real quick. And we should be good. You know, when in doubt, just use the weapon wheel. It's a little bit thicker of a wall than I thought. It's fine. Perfect. All right, now for a level that we don't really have many skips for. We do have one skip though. It's pretty cool. But back on the dragon. It's kind of cool. I'm sure they're going to keep adding more skins in for the Slayer and stuff. There's already quite a few. I hope they keep adding more skins for the dragon as well. He deserves them.
We have to drive it back into that ring.
So there's 3 tentacles we need to destroy here and 2 fights you're supposed to do. We're actually going to skip the first fight
Energy readings all
by
wrong.
taking the dragon for a fun joyride out of bounds.
Those tentacles are ripping the station apart.
So we're going to go down here, which is supposed to push you back up. It's like, you're too low, but it kind of gives up after a second. It's like, oh, okay. I guess we just can't push you up. So we get to go underneath where we're supposed to be. And we can hit a checkpoint here. Which area is only supposed to really get unlocked once you do the first fight. So we're just going to bypass that. And it's funny, later on you're going to hear an audio cue that both the demonic portals have been destroyed, which is the 2 fights, but we never destroyed the first one. Destroying these ships along the way does give you 20 gold, but at this point we don't really need any more upgrades. At least we haven't really routed for that at all. Yeah, they're kind of fun to shoot. They're on the way. So we can't really break this until we get the green shot, so we can dodge it. Let's blast this down.
Tentacle destroyed.
To get to the other 2 tentacles, we gotta take down one of these ships. Just have a lot of cannons with shields that you gotta blow up, and then you can beat up the Eye of Sauron on top, you know. Some crazy demonic tech they got going on here. That's 2 down. See a lovely comment in chat, which you see so often with games of like, why don't you just enjoy the game first? Well, I played this game casually for 22 hours, 100%ed it. And since the games were released last week, I've now put in 70 hours into this game, so, you know, speedrunners don't just immediately jump to breaking this game. Maybe some do, but a lot of us still enjoy the game casually, you know. So I put in 70 hours in the last week, and so have many of the other runners. Like, collectively, we have thousands of hours in this game in the last week. I've spent more time flying around on this dragon in this level alone, looking for ways to break it, looking at every little thing. I've gone off the dragon here and explored all of this on foot, more than most people have playing the game casually. You know, like, it's always just a fun thing to see, you know. People see the end product of the runs, they don't see the time put in behind the scenes, but yeah, there you go. We're gonna fly through this portal, and we get a checkpoint here, which, if we reload, conveniently puts us at the top of the map, where we need to go for the second fight. We got this guy to take out. He's kind of just chilling up here. Whee. Another big leader fight, so we got some fun enemies to take out here. So the second children that we picked up back in hell actually shoots out like a bunch of daggers when we do a parry. Which is pretty cool, does a lot of damage. You can see them go flying there. I believe it's actually in the level before this where you get like a really cool shield upgrade that has like an auto turret pop up. Unfortunately, it's just kind of too far out of the way to actually go and get. Okay, we need to look for the snake boys. My least favorite enemy in this game, and my least favorite in Doom Eternal. Kind of sad they brought him back. We need another snake boy over here. So here I'm actually taking out a little bit of extra fodder, because if I don't, we're going to have another one of the boss fights from before spawn in. We need an arachnotron, I think. Somewhere. There you are. But we can actually bypass having to fight that guy if we just kill off some of the smaller enemies. And the leader, once it's dead, does not care what else is alive. It just ends the fight instantly. And luckily this Revenant goes down really, really quickly.
All hell gates closed.
Yeah, so
All tentacles have been cleared.
they clearly need to get their eyes checked because we definitely skipped one of those. Okay, into the Spire, which is where kind of the alien, like Lovecraftian map start. But yeah, we're still just gonna have our way with them. So we're just gonna, okay, just throw a couple frames away here. So this level, normally you clear out this first arena, and then it opens up a giant part that's underwater normally. And you go do a bunch of stuff on the dragon, and then you come back here, but we can just mantle warp right into the final little room. You could also just wheel clip into it. If you have a fast enough PC, it might even be faster to wheel clip. And my game crashed. Yeah, that happens a lot between levels. So get this game back up. It pops up really quickly. Thankfully, this game actually loads really fast, which is so great. Just make sure the audio gets captured as well. So this is where things get a little bit silly. And that this map and the next map are on the same map. And we have the ability to use mantle warps. So not only are we not going to see this map, we're not going to see any of the next map. And the two following this are kind of the same way. So it's going to look like we're going to do two. We're skipping 4 maps altogether. Unfortunately, we can't control this, so we get a little bit of a break. Just swimming through here. Yeah, I believe this is being called the combo warp, or something along those lines. We're going to set up a mantle warp here, and then position the camera just properly, getting it first try. And when we load back in, we're going to fall and hold forward, and hopefully land the very end of the second map here. Inserting an object that we did not collect. Yeah, so you're going to see we were just in the city and we just passed the marshes going into Temple. The next 2 maps on launch were kind of gross. Temple led into Belly of the Beast, which had some really unique tech, which I might be able to showcase here, called shield boosting, where you can like cancel a shield attack on an enemy.
No reference data available.
Oh, he's just gonna knock me off. Okay. By canceling that just right, you can actually go flying and keep a lot of your momentum. But it was really annoying to do in Belly of the Beast because of how you had to do it. But because this map and the next one kind of overlap, because the end of the next map leads back to this one. The end level trigger for that's actually on this map too. So I have a fun way to bypass that. We're just going to do some mantle warps. Some really annoying tech in the water. To swim faster, you just tap left and right, back and forth. For some reason, that lets you just go a little bit faster in these kind of slow segments. And take out a Cosmic Baron just so he's not annoying. So we're actually going to use the Shrine to do another Mantle Warp. There's sort of a series of Mantle Warps here. But we're also going to use it to upgrade the Shield Rune once more. And then warp right here. It's kind of a late start. Okay, we got it. Second try. So we're doing this to bypass spawning the enemies, and we're just going to jump up on the ship. So we need more height. Mantle warping does not allow you to change where you are height-wise. So we need to get up here. So we can do this onto the top of the ship. Oop. Okay. So the auto map at low frame rates is a little janky. Doesn't really like to move the way you want it to. We need to be very careful at where I mantle warp to here. It's too far to the right, and we fall through the map into some water. Too far left, and we actually spawn in the ship. But now that we're on top, we can keep jumping. And then we actually get close enough to this ring, which you're not supposed to get to for a very long time. Oop. Okay. The game's being kind of naughty. Very slippery ship. Someone waxed it too well. Okay. So if we jump up, we can actually target this. Oh, it really does not like me being up here right now. And fly off into what's supposed to be a portal. But there's not one there. And then into the final part. So at the end of this map, the end of the temple map, you're supposed to kind of get swallowed up by, spoilers, Cthulhu, who you are supposed to unleash in the Spire map, which we bypassed a couple maps ago. And then you go into the belly of the beast, and you go through that, and you come back to where the temple ends. So luckily for us, the final part of that map still exists here. So we're just going to bypass that entirely. It's a really cool looking landscape. And a fun little thing, for a while we were wheel clipping through this, and then it was just found that you can jump to the side. Pretty easy one there. But yeah, the only reason we don't mantle up here is just because this is much higher and it's faster run. So interacting with this pedestal is usually what ends this level. When you come back and you go through the door, we're going to wheel clip here. And now they were somewhat smart about this because they took away a lot of collision behind this door, but they didn't take away all of the collision. So these stairs, which you're supposed to climb normally, do not have collision. The sides of the stairs do. So we're just going to run all the way up here. Things are going to freak out for a second, and we're just going to enter the final arena without any enemies, and we can just run to the end of it. Yeah, normally there's like a couple waves of enemies here. So you run to save this commander lady. But yeah, we just run over here. Level ends. And we skip this one and Belly of the Beast. You'll see it pop up there. And to Harbor of Souls. So you've kind of died, more or less, and you're in the underworld, kind of, is what's happening here. So try not to spoil too much stuff, but, you know, if you're watching this, maybe you're fine with it. And there's a mantle spot we can do right here. Well, it was kind of a late start. Let's see. Give this a handful of tries. Cool. If we fall right here underneath the map, it's actually, believe it or not, the end of the map. Oh, I have fallen off in a dangerously weird spot. That's fine. We can just take the elevator. A little faster clip to the top, but, you know, every now and then you need a fun little elevator ride. Yeah, luckily for us, a lot of times they put the end of the map underneath where it starts and not on top of. So Resurrection is the biggest combat section of the game. We've not found any ways to skip it as of yet. But the next 3 maps, you're going to see a little bit of fighting. Just a wee bit. So nothing happening in the spooky forest. This is just kind of us coming back to life with a vengeance. Now, in Resurrection, we need to do 3 big arena fights so that we can spawn in the dragon and fly off to meet the Khan Bishop. So,
He's not responding.
fortunately, we have no way of spawning in the dragon early, meaning we need to go through these. Okay. More or less the same loop, though. We're just going to impale everything that we can, block shots, shield bash on loop. Okay, we should be seeing a cyber demon spawn in. There he is. Hello, our old friends. Goodbye. So this is actually one of the fights where fodder is really nice to kill. It kind of requires it. There's not enough big enemies. Once again, it doesn't matter what else is alive when you have it all the way down. As long as you kill the leader, the fight will just end. You can see all the impaled shots on them. So one thing about these arena fights is it matters where you spawn in the enemies. In terms of like running into the arena itself. We could mantle warp to the spots, but just getting into the arena itself doesn't spawn them in. And mantle warping into like very small places is kind of a pain. You have to be a little bit more precise with it. So that's why we're just running over here instead. We'll be mantle warping out of the second arena into the third, but for this first one, it's just a little bit better if we just run. And then just take everybody out. As far as where enemies spawn in the arena themselves, it is always a static spawn. So I always know where these turrets are going to be. I know where these fodder are going to be. Which makes it pretty nice to just hunt down the ones that you need. I think it's our first time seeing a regular Cacodemon. We saw one earlier in the second dragon level at the very end. It's And like the advanced form, which I think is the only one of those in the game. Okay, we're just waiting for the Komodo to spawn. Which also gets introduced earlier in the game. We just bypass that fight entirely. It's pretty cool. Targeting on that one went a little crazy. So now he's almost dead. I'm kind of walking my way over to where we want to mantle warp. Just so when this is done, we can get out quickly. So once again, we're not going to go right into the fight, which is this red area here. We're going to go to the spot next to it, so we can run in and spawn the enemies in properly. Let's see. May have done this too late. Let's give it like 2 more tries. So as long as I look down, the spot I'm looking at, that I'm feeding the game in terms of coordinates, is always going to be basically in the middle of the map. If you don't look straight down, it gets a little bit more confusing of knowing like where it is. That's why I'm constantly readjusting the camera to look straight into the ground, just so I have an easier time understanding where this is going to place me. Map does not want to move. There we go. Now we're just going to run through this all the way into the fight. Whoa, okay, that guy's teleporting all over the place. Who does he think he is, me? That's what the demons see when I'm running the game. A lot of people seeing the run and attack have kind of thought of the T-1000 from Terminator when we're doing the wall clipping, and I would love to see like a fan animation of Doom Guy just walking through walls for the demons. Where did you teleport to? Alright, time for a dragon.
Destroyed.
So yeah, there's the ship up there, and it all is technically loaded in. We as Doom Guy can like mantle warp out of the map, and a lot of this has collision to where you could run all the way up here. But one, it's just not faster. It's really slow to run on foot. And two, there's really no way to get from the end of this tunnel to the ship itself. But you know, maybe one day we'll find something. Stay tuned. This is where we kind of start our boss fighting arc. We have the Khan Bishop at the end of this map. We have the final battle, which is not the final battle, it's a lie, where we're going to see part 1 of the final boss, and then Reckoning is going to be part 2 of the final boss. And we kind of skip everything else in between. This stretch of fighting bosses is really why we're trying to figure out combat a little bit more in terms of like what upgrades could we potentially go out of our way for, because it is a little bit slow. We're just trying to find the most optimal way to get these bosses down. So we'll see with this guy. He has a really annoying mechanic where it becomes a little bit of a bubble boy, and we don't really have a way to break it. And if you've played the game, you might be thinking, oh, we'll just use a plasma gun. Well, one, we don't have a plasma gun, so we'd have to go away for that. But it's also not really fast at destroying his bubble, even on easier difficulties. So you still kind of have to wait for it to be done anyways, which is a little bit obnoxious, but here's the Khan Bishop. A lot of the same loops. A lot of his attacks, if you see them like on the arena itself, are just AoE fields of damage. Here's Bubble Boy. Not really any way to deal with them. And unfortunately, we can't like clip into the bubble either. That just doesn't work. Yeah. If you see yellow on the map, it's just something that would do damage to us. For the most part, we can just ignore it. And when you get them in this kind of a stun state, it's very easy to hit them, but they also take reduced damage, which is a bit obnoxious. Oh, and he bubbled at the last second. What a guy. What a gamer. All right. The rare grenade launcher. All right, so we're going into phase 2. If I reload checkpoint here and then shield bash him when it starts. You can actually skip the first bubble here. Does not want to shield bash him. There we go. And he did it anyways. What a gamer. All right, we'll just let him have his bubble. It's fine. Unfortunately, this one's very long. We actually skipped the second bubble, so, at least that's nice. That is nice. So he usually does do a second bubble in that phase. But yeah, this is final battle, which is another mech level. Or is it? If you skip this cutscene too much at the beginning and then reload checkpoint, you're going to see the cutscene again. And then when you skip it, you're just on the floor. Now, you might be thinking, isn't it just faster to be in the mech? For the most part, you would be right. But we can't mantle warp in the mech. So we're just going to go on foot. There's also not a lot to actually mantle warp on in this area. I kind of mentioned it before, but a lot of the rock surfaces just don't have mantable ledges. They're slopes. And there's one very particular spot on this entire map, which is huge. It's a mech level that we can actually mantle warp off of. It just takes a little bit of walking. This is also kind of a scary skip that does not have a safety precaution in place, no extra checkpoints, so if somehow it does go wrong, we'll take kind of an easy way out on the second attempt. Also, yeah, all of these buildings are supposed to be destructible because you're supposed to be in a mech, but you can just destroy them with basic weapons. Just running into them. Okay, so the area we're looking for is right over here. We're actually going to break this building so we get access to it. There's a spot right here that we need to squeeze through. So the ledge we want to grab is right up here. So the end of this level is broken up into fighting the old one, which is basically Cthulhu, in the mech. And then you fight the big bad of the game a couple times. We're going to try to mantle warp past the old one fight, which is this big arena here, into fighting the final boss. And like I said, this is not really safe by any means. We need to land on an invisible wall that's not very big. Should be like this for the next one, I think. So let's see here. All right. So we hope that we land on the wall, which we did. And now we need to traverse. So here's the final arena. We could just fall in, but that doesn't spawn in the final boss. The trigger for that is, where is the guy? He's over here. Okay. Located underneath this enemy. Be careful not to fall into the void. Okay, so walk over here, spawn in the final boss, and then we need to actually clip it back in. Let's see. This is also another spot where we don't have a great consistent spot of clipping in, so we're just going to hold forward for a little bit. We're getting underneath the floor, essentially, so we can jump up through it. But we need to be far enough in that that's actually going to happen, and it's not going to push us back out. And now once we get in here, we need to fight them. We still have not gotten a checkpoint yet, so if I somehow died to the first phase of Azrak here, I would go back to the very beginning of the map. So I need to be very careful to at least get into phase 2, and then we can get a little wild with it. Gonna go a little bit longer, just to be sure. So same kind of gameplay loop as we've been doing before. Just really want to block his shots. Also, my favorite part about fighting him with Impaler is because we have to do so many shots to him. Every time we go to do a little glory kill melee animation thing, you just see all of the bolts stuck into him. It's really funny. Unfortunately, it resets through phases.
This is true.
Otherwise, it'd just be covered on him. Looking like Hellraiser. He does hit quite hard, so I do try to block as many of his attacks as possible.
How does it feel, Slayer?
That's phase 1. We've got 2 more phases of him here. And we got 2 phases of him in the final map as well, but those will be a lot quicker in a very fun way. So yeah, he kind of keeps adding like mechanics that are more arena environmental based. We just do not need to care about those whatsoever. So like, if you don't destroy these pillars that have popped up, they shoot out attacks. Yeah, we're just gonna continue to hit them.
Enough of this.
Yeah, you'll also see as we go through this fight with Azrak here, it's a lot of him like tossing us back and doing stuff to us, and it eventually slowly fades into us doing melee animations against him in those little cutscenes. Just kind of a cool touch, but... There's the flail that we never picked up. Alright, phase 2 down, and just mouth full of needles. Oh no, we got stabbed. The worst. Alright, phase 3, it's gonna start with him flying up into the sky. He's gonna like spawn in some things that I'm just gonna take out real quick. And just another fun round of blasting him in the face. Oh yeah, I forgot there's also this mechanic, which is kind of a non-exciting one. Oh no, pillars again. Oh no. Hit him with the mace that we also never picked up. And then we are on to the final map, which is past the final battle. So we're going to go back to our old cheaty ways of using mantle warps. We're going to do one right off the start here. Right to the final part of this. We need to get on Azrak's ship, which is done through this cutscene over here. It's kind of a scary spot. Where are we at? All right, we'll clip our way through. Like, when in doubt, just break out the weapon wheel. Also, fun thing, the grenade launcher is the only gun in the game that is too long for the weapon wheel's like text box, so it kind of just jiggles back and forth. I don't know why they didn't just make the text a little bit smaller, but it's a fun thing to notice when you're just holding this out. Quick workaround. Once we get through this, we're going to hit a checkpoint trigger, or a cutscene trigger, I should say, which is going to take us into the final area of the final level, where the final boss is. And like I said, it's the same guy again. He has the addition of the witch. And he's got two phases, one with the witch and one without, and they're both going to be really quick. Why is that? Because here's a berserk power-up, which normally you're supposed to use for this little area, and then when you run through this hallway, the berserk power gets taken up, which berserk gives you infinite ammo for your gun and more damage. So if we instead grab it and then mantle warp past that trigger, the game never has a chance to take it away. Meaning, we get to fight the boss with it. And we get to act like the real Doomslayer. And how much damage he really should do. Okay. So get ready for a really quick boss fight. And then once this map's over with, that is time. Switch. Alright, that's phase one. Azrak and the witch. There goes the witch. He's gonna make us a tempting offer.
Come on, the Horde. Kill me, and And this war will never end.
All right, sounds good, buddy. And that's Doom the Dark Ages. At least the route that we have a week after release. Said things will change quite a bit, I'm sure. It's already pretty crazy, and the community's still hard at work finding stuff. If you want to get involved in either this category or the other ones, come check out the Doom Discord. We've got channels for all the different categories, restricted if you want more movement and fighting, 100% if you want to run Ultra Nightmare. People are working on that. We'd be glad to have you. The more eyes we can get on it, the better. We can bring this down. Also, if you like FPS speedruns, I run over 80 FPS in horror games for the most part. And check me out at twitch.tv/bloodthunder. All my stuff's on YouTube as well. Just search for my name. Done plenty of GDQ runs in the past. At SGDQ coming up in just a couple months, we'll actually be running Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, another id Tech engine game. It's not nearly as broken as this, but still quite broken. So, if you like those games, come check me out. Be glad to have you. And thanks for having us on so quickly. Putting together a run in a week and getting comfortable enough to show it off in this kind of manner is quite the task, but you got to rise to occasion, and I hope people enjoyed it. Yeah.